The House Appropriations Subcommittee on School Aid and Department of Education will come to order. Chair, please call the roll.
Chair Kelly.
Here.
Rep. Jenkins-Arno. Rep. Markinen. Rep. Beeson.
Here.
Rep. Borton.
Here.
Rep. Glanville.
Present.
Rep. Steckloff.
Present.
Thank you. Thank you. And Representative Steckloff moves to approve the minutes of October 28, 2025. There being no objections, the minutes are approved. Well, welcome to Subcommittee on House Appropriations and School Aid and the Department for 2026. We're happy to have our latest, our newest State Superintendent, Dr. Glenn Maleyko. Glenn, please take your spot, hit the red button. Just want to say we've had a couple meetings prior to this today, and I thought they were very productive. They get to know one another, and as I've said to Glenn before, we've got a lot of high hopes for his tenure. We've put ourselves in a bit of a ditch and need to do what we can, and I think that you're the right man to do that. So look forward to the things you have to say today and that you're going to present. So with that, and Sue Carnell, good to see you again as well. Thank you for being here. So Doctor, take it away.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it, and thanks for accommodating that picture. I think it's all important. We all can get behind, the students first motto, and that's the official sign now. I know, Chair Kelly, that we had you could see in the background there, the one that was unofficial at the time until I became state superintendent. I'm very excited to do the work. I'm very excited to work with all of you. I'm all about collaboration and working together and putting students first. I have a couple that was a picture. My history, just so you know, is 30 years in Durham Public Schools. Started out as a substitute teacher. In fact, that picture there is a class of mine in 1997. I'm very excited to be here. The other picture there that I have is my mother and my wife came to my second interview before the state board. It was very rigorous interviews, and I was happy to have them there as well. I've been very active, and prior to even starting, because I know Chair Kelly, we met actually before I officially started back in October, and then we met again once I was official. I tried to get a head start. It was really interesting because I kind of had a schedule, but I didn't have any state email. I didn't know where things were. I had Karen Carefoot at the department trying to manage it, and a lot of you I know, Representative Glanville and others I had met at different events. So I thought it was very important to get out there showing that we want to work together. So I've been at a number of functions, presenting before a number of groups, local school boards, associations, and organizations. Obviously, it's very important, developing a relationship with the governor, so I feel very good about that. We had an early meeting in November before I started, and we got behind, things like literacy that I think we can all agree on. It's very important for our students. This is from the Little Caesars Arena. I presented at the Balmer Summer Discovery, and I'm going to talk about summer funding that we think we need to provide to our students. Continuing, that's Chair Kelly, this was jointly at the Teach Michigan in Detroit, and we were able to get that joint picture there as well. And I think we have Representative Glanville. I know I have had others, Representative DeBoer and others that we've met with. The other thing, I'm just going to be honest, is I have a lot of experience at the local level, going back to teacher, principal in 2 buildings, HR director, 10.5 years as superintendent of the Durham Public Schools. So that experience brings a lot to the table, and I've already found that to be very useful. But I am going to have a learning curve. Let's just be honest. I'm coming to the department. There's a learning curve with state government, and that's why I appreciate Dr. Carnell and the team for helping me along the way. So it's going to take me some time to get to know different systems. This is my first official testimony, so thank you. We'll put this in the memory books with those pictures, and I look forward to many, many more. So as we're moving on it, they say change takes time. I always say it's a marathon, not a sprint. Let's keep the focus going, and that's what we're going to do. So meeting with the department was very important for me. In fact, last week I had the first full department meeting with 500 staff members that I think overall went very well. Again, here's some different meetings with department staff. meeting with special ed, MACE, with different association heads, Dr. Severson and others that I think are very important, union officials and others speaking. That's the one thing I'm learning too is as a local soup, I was busy, had a lot of things, but my calendar, oh my goodness, the amount of things that I'm involved in. Thankfully, I have a great team that's helping to manage that, but I know it's very important that we're out there and building those relationships. This was the MEMSPA conference in Traverse City that I spoke before. Chair, my first board meeting, so it was interesting because my first day was the day before a state board meeting. If you're not aware of those, you're probably aware those state board meetings go all day. Well, the difference in a local soup is you don't actually chair them. You sit next to the board president and they chair it. So I had to brush up on all my Robert's rules to make sure, and the whole thing was, make sure, let's get him through his first meeting, and we did, but one of the things, I'm big into hockey, and one of the things that kind of eases my nerves in the morning, when I have a big speaking or a session, it used to pump me up as the AC/DC, getting ready to go. And so whenever I have something important, I play that AC/DC, did before the first state board meeting. My mother was at that second interview. So the first interview for the state board back in August, same thing, played it, stayed in a hotel here. Stayed in a hotel with my mother and my wife. The consultant said, yes, it's appropriate to have your mother come. I said, Mom, we're playing AC/DC on the way to the interview. That's it, So it's just something that, we have our personalities and what we do, and it goes back to my roots with hockey. This was the Literacy Summit. There are state board members there, Dr. Pugh, Dr. Pridgett, others, and I know we've had other representatives that were there. I know Chair Kelly, you were there as well, and that just signaled that we need to get behind joint literacy initiatives from the state. What I would say is there's a lot of strength in what's been going on already. I look at it as we need to retool and we need to focus and make improvements where necessary. This is the thing that you're going to see from me is with the team, I would just say, collaboration is non-negotiable for me and my team. It's like we need to work together. If you want to help students, that's who I want to work with. I want to work with Republicans and Democrats and everyone that's here to help students. I want to work with union officials, parents, students. Students is very important as well. And so obviously the state board, building that collaborative relationship so that we can do the important work. I think that's very critical. And the picture at the top was my former board in Dearborn. In fact, they're now going through a search to fill my position that I left, my vacancy. So I talk about hockey. This is Adam Graves. I was in a charity event to raise research for cancer. Adam Graves was drafted by the Wings. He won a Stanley Cup with the New York Rangers. And my motto is this as well, as they say collaboration. Why would we body check our own team? Or if you're a football fan, why would you tackle your own team? Like, let's work together. Now, we can have disagreements, but we can find common ground on some areas, which I see nods when I talk about literacy. So let's get behind that. Let's get behind our students and do what we need. So that was my message to the department, to working with local associations is, okay, let's have a respectful dialogue, but why would we get in each other's way when ultimately we're here for, and you guys got that picture, we're here for the students. And I told the state board that if you hire me, I will remind you that this is why I am here. And I think we all got to remember that when politics and other things are taking place, that, we're ultimately here and we shouldn't be stepping on our own team members. Student first, I was doing that for going back 11 years. I got criticized initially for doing it, but we really did. It was Dearborn Public Schools. We branded the district that this is what we stood for. One of my board members from Dearborn is like, hey, you stole our idea. You can't take that up to the state. I'm like, no. Anybody can get on board with the Students First motto. I think it's very important. So I've believed in that throughout my entire career. Whoops. So here is my student advisory committee. So it's virtual. I had a student advisory committee as a local SUP. This is the thing that I'm going to elevate. I am going to tell you that student voice is very important. We have such gifted students. In fact, a former student of mine was so proud. He's been working here, volunteering his time, 11th grader with the Senate, and he wanted to come and see my office. I changed the schedule. Absolutely, you're going to come. Let's have a conversation, and let's listen to our students. Actually, the students and their ideas is what gives me great hope for this nation, this community, this state. And I think we got to really listen to them and their ideas. So I'm very excited that there was already an advisory council. It's going to be virtually, obviously, because they're from different places in Michigan, but my understanding is there's a couple of in-person meetings, which I think is important. My student advisory council, I'm big into social media. You're going to see at the end of this, I believe we need to promote the positive things. But guess who taught me how to use social media? It was the students. They told me things to do. They liked the selfies, the angles, the little 1-minute messages that I do, and so we can learn from our students. I think sometimes we just got to take a step back. Bob Wheaton and our team over at, I was very excited to get this motto going, and when I was officially appointed, or I was negotiating my contract in September, I kind of asked, can we use the student first sign? They're like, well, it's not really official, you can. I said, okay, my first day on the job, guess what? We approved this sign, we're ready to go, because that's the motto that we're gonna follow. I've tried to be out there as well in the media, and our team at MDE has been doing a nice job getting me in media, and I've been delivering that consistent message, which you're gonna hear when we go over our legislative priorities. I think it's very important to be out there in the media, to be out there with parents, and just to explain what we're doing and why it's important. As a local superintendent, I was not the superintendent you'd find too much in the office. I was in the schools, 400 plus school visits a year, interacting. I believe it is critical that I travel around the state. In fact, yesterday I was in Detroit with Dr. Vitti. We have a SCOTO I'm going in a couple weeks. I have a whole week planned in the UP. I believe it's important that I get out there and meet with people, meet with parents, educational leaders. When we go to different districts, one of the things that I will do is mention if it's from your district, so that if any representatives or senators or any would like to go, we're planning to do that once we have that outlined. But I think it's very important. And I looked at other high-achieving states. State superintendents or chiefs implemented listening tours in states like Massachusetts, New Jersey, Maryland, and others that we tend to look at. The other thing I want to do is look at our strategic plan, the top 10. I was actually on the initial top 10 steering committee way back in 2015 when Brian Whiston was state superintendent, and I'm not sure how many of you, and you're nodding, Representative Kelly, he was my mentor. I wouldn't be here today without him. He passed away tragically in 18. But anyway, he started that plan, so I have some involvement in it going back over 11 years ago. And here's what I want to do. I want to revisit that plan and see what we can do to make improvements. There's some solid items in there like literacy, college admission rates, graduation, and other things we need to do. But I think it's worthwhile to bring stakeholders back to re-emphasize the things we need to do and to look at that plan and to bring excitement to it, to be honest, promote it, what we need to do. So here's a little bit of progress in the current plan, and obviously this, I just started a couple months ago, so I'm nowhere taking credit for these. These are Dr. Carnell and the other team, and all of you, because like I said, it is a team. It's working together. Early childhood and literacy opportunities. Enrollment is up. We know that's a very positive. I'm a big proponent of early childhood. We understand that we need to work with Maleyko on those situations, and I'll be meeting with Dr. Beverly soon from Maleyko. Literacy achievement, I think we can all get behind this. Chair Kelly, I appreciate when we had that meeting, we both said, hey, we have some common ground here, and we all got to get behind this because we need to do this for our students. So goal 2 is very, very important, and I want to, the work has already started with all of you with the 2024 literacy and dyslexia laws, and then materials and screeners. We know students need to be fed. Breakfast, lunch is very important, so we've made progress there as far as the state. CTE programs, that's another area we're expanding. I can tell you, too, that I'm a big proponent. When I was in Dearborn, we had 3,800 students in dual enrollment classes in other areas. We were 20% above state average as far as college admission rates. So those are programs, that we need to look at to ensure that students are not only graduating, but the measure is how successful are they after graduation, and I know we have that in the plan as well, with secondary learning opportunities. We have some improvement here, 82.8% graduation rates, so the state rates are going up, they're improving. We want to increase, as mentioned, more going to college. We see some improvements there, up to 51.8%. I know the goal is to get to 60 by the year 2030. Teacher certification. We dealt with the teacher shortage. There's been some great work done by the legislature, by the governor, by all of you, and by MDE to fund those shortage areas and to have grow your own programs. I was a beneficiary of one in Dearborn, and it has helped. We are filling vacancies more. We still have work to do, but we need to keep moving forward in those directions, because if you do not have a high-quality teacher in the classroom, then you are not going to increase instruction for our students or student outcomes. We've had some increases in school funding, both on an equitable area and just overall, and I want to, thank the legislature for that. So every now and then you're going to see some hockey quotes from me, and this one's Wayne Gretzky. I skate to where the puck is going to be, not to where it has been. That is the progress we need to make for the benefit of our students. We put ourselves behind goals like literacy, numeracy, and other areas that are needed. And I want to thank all of you. That literacy and dyslexia law, PA 146, 147, that's the foundation, and we need to keep that mission going. That is what the literacy summit that the governor and I had jointly in Detroit is behind. We need to continue to support those areas. I've had positive meetings with the governor's office to get behind these things. And again, I've met with both Democrats and Republicans as I've started, and everyone is behind this to get behind our students. We also want to thank you for funding materials in literacy as well. So I think that is also very important. Now, you all received a legislative priority letter from MDE, and I'll be honest, some of these things, because some of the things in there had already been underway prior to me arriving, but there's other things that I added and put, these are important areas. So we worked as a team. So Dr. Carnell and I were working as a team. We're working together, and we're going to kind of go over this jointly. And then at the end, obviously, of our presentation, we'll be happy to take any questions. So the first one, literacy, no surprise. We did come out with a mandate on letters training. I was the president of the Michigan Superintendent Association, so they're all my colleagues and friends at the conference. A lot of times people like it's a mandate. I get it that it's local control. But I think it's important enough to get behind this issue of literacy and say mandatory. But we also have to provide the funding and the support. We're working with the Ballmer Association, but we're also looking for some state funding, because when I talk to my colleague superintendents from smaller districts, well, how am I going to do, so we have to help the superintendents, and I understand that from being a local soup. When you're bringing training, how are you going to do it? With substitutes, with extra pay you're going to do on the weekends, how are you going to do that? It is very intense in science of reading training that we want all elementary teachers to receive, so we do have to fund that to make that happen. The other area, under number 2, I looked at high-achieving states, and we appreciate the funding and the advances that have occurred, but we're still not at the top when it comes to funding when we compare ourselves to other states. I've looked at, English language learners, special education, early childhood, pupil transportation for some districts that have longer ways to go for their students to come to school. Or, for example, in Dearborn, I had one area that was isolated. If we didn't have bus and transportation, some of those students probably wouldn't have been going to high school. So I think those are very important. I've looked at high-achieving states. I studied them all when I was interviewing for this job, and those are some of the things that they do. So I'm going to turn this next one over to Dr. Carnell.
Thank you, Dr. Maleyko. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to talk about disruptive education protection. We have laws on the books that protect our foster youth. We like to add homelessness and students in juvenile justice system. The main takeaway, or one of the main takeaways here, is to allow transcripts, diploma decision, credit accrual to follow the student in a timely manner. So it's trying to build a system. We're asking the legislature to put funding behind a system that will follow the student with those credit credentials or with their diploma, so that when they go to a new school, the new school can know quickly where to place that student and how to help that student be successful in graduation.
Thank you, Dr. Carnell. So the next one, which I kind of mentioned, and some of this comes down to my local experience, but I'll just say I started out as a third grade teacher at Salina. bordering southwest Detroit and Dearborn, isolated by the Ford Rouge plant. Very high immigrant population, highest at risk, highest needs. I ended up being principal eventually in that school. We looked at research, and one of the things I would have is I'd go to the homes on lunch or whatever with a colleague of mine. Most of the parents couldn't speak English, a lot of them, but they just wanted what's right for their students. They wanted their students to, get an education, to accelerate, and they put a lot of trust in us as teachers. But the problem that I saw is that if we didn't, in the summer, there were no books in the home, there was no literacy instruction, and so there's research on summer learning loss. I'm just going to say probably the broader fix would be a change, and I think Chair Kelly, we talked about, with the calendar is probably really, but I understand there's complexities with that. So I look at summer programming, and in Dearborn, I ran an 8,000 school summer program in 21, 5,000 in 22. 23, the funding dried up, and then we got funding from the Balmer philanthropic group to run $8 million a year. So what I would say is that we had the literacy and the numeracy in the morning, with the academics, but then the students really wanted to come to the school because they had enrichment and they go on field trips. Now, my children, I grew up in a middle class, are probably enriching in the summer because I have the capability to do that. The concern is students that are from at-risk or immigrants that don't have that ability to get out of that neighborhood, for example, and drive and go to different places. So that's why the field trips are very important. Steve Ballmer came to that school 2 years ago. He's one of the wealthiest people in the world. He owns the LA Clippers. And he was really down to earth with the students. I loved it. He was interacting with them, and he really just wanted to help. A teacher was like, Dr. Maleyko, can I get a picture with him? I'm like, okay. I went to him. He's like, yeah. And I said, well, we're Pistons fans, even though he's like, it's okay. I grew up as a Pistons fan, is what he told me. So he grew up in the area. But he wants to give back, so I love working with those kind of groups that want to help students. And that program has expanded. In fact, talking to Dr. Vitti in Detroit, he's running the program now, multiple. But I'm proud that Dearborn was the first one to jump on that Balmer summer program and the work that we did to help our students.
Our next legislative priority is on balanced statewide assessment system. We're asking the legislature to fund a pilot for 2 years so that we can work with districts to discover a new benchmark assessment system where students along the way are making progress and then additionally make progress on the summative assessment. We want to make sure that the benchmark assessment is aligned to the summative assessment. So we're asking for a pilot to use in different districts, in different settings throughout the state to show how we can make better progress for our students on our summative assessment. The next one is on technology. We're asking the legislature for funding so that the department can put out guidance on AI and support for districts using AI so that it is seamless across the system, so that it is coherent across the system, and so that it is aligned across the system.
Thank you. Number 7, we kind of hit on that in my updates with CTE, dual enrollment, opportunities for students. So we want to provide some flexibility as well for students and believe that that is also very important. So we're promoting that.
We have several items under educator workforce stability, safety, and smart compliance. A couple of that I want to highlight. We're asking the legislature to fund fingerprinting for all current educators in the system. Some educators haven't been fingerprinted since 2016. Some of the systems have changed since they've been fingerprinted, so we'd like to have funding for current educators, to be fingerprinted. Another one is credentialing. We are finding that just based on a small clerical error, school districts are fined an enormous amount for not properly placed teachers or subs, so we want to help districts make sure that they can have properly placed talent, but not be penalized that it's a detriment in providing services for our students. And the number 9 is on health. We know that we're seeing a lot of progress on students eating healthy breakfast and healthy lunch. we'd like to see school meals codified in statute.
So number 10 is kind of an ask that, this was in previous asks, and Chair Kelly, I know you mentioned, there's a lot of hope behind me and the team and working together. This is an ask that I have to really be able to get in there, roll up our sleeves and make those improvements. So currently, the retirement systems for those that work in school districts are not implemented in a way that they could come to the department and work, and they will not apply for jobs at the department. A lot of people, I know a couple that specifically, because it will hurt their retirement system. My ask here is, this isn't a high, literacy, but it's the ability to have people with, and we do have people with experiences, but generally they may not be able to, thank you, they may not be able to go until they hit their retirement or they have their 30 years or whatever it may be. And I had a meeting with Anthony Estelle from ORS just to look at this thing. To me, and I've talked to Republicans, Democrats, everybody, anybody I talk to is like, yeah, why aren't we doing this? Like, why don't we want to have people, there's a lot of, you need the state experience, we know that, but there needs to be a balance. So it's hampering the ability for me and us to hire people because of this impediment. So this is an ask that I have is like, we got to make improvements. But I'm asking to help the legislature to help me to change the law so that we can hire people from local districts to come in with experience so they can. And we have a lot of great people in the department, so I'm not saying anything about the current, but when we have vacancies and things, we need people with experience that have worked with the kids in the classrooms and things like that, and not be limited. So that is an ask that I have as well, or we do. And again, that was in there prior. The last one is something that I just think is important. We need to uplift educators, students, parents, school communities. The National Blue Ribbon School Program was eliminated, so the states are now taking this on. And so I believe it's very important that we do recognize positive things. We experienced it in Dearborn. We were very proud. And so I was very pleased that the department already started with this prior to me coming, but I just want to enhance it and have more people. Like, we need to uplift that profession of teachers, and it's great at every department meeting. We have the teacher of the year that comes. We want to uplift students. We need to recognize, I was very pleased that department already had it during my full department meeting. We recognize department staff for their years of service and the great work. So this is not much of a money ask. This is kind of maybe a little bit of some funding to support this, but it's more of a positive feel-good to support education and educators. Social media. So thanks to Marty here, we have a little QR code. So you can get, I'm big on social media, so if you want to, this one is mine, I think, right? And then the second one is the department. So I'm on Facebook, all the things, Instagram, the students like that, they taught me how to use Instagram, big following. They would usually, I think when I first became superintendent, they would all be, sending me these messages on Twitter about canceling school for snow days. And I was responding, and I think they were surprised. Yeah, so we built up kind of a following, and it's a great way to interact and to show what's going on. We created a new department, social media as well, so you could scan that QR code, and it's student.first at the Instagram site. And I just think it's very important that, we're out there providing the message as to what we're doing and being out there in the public and showing the good things that are going on. Okay, so I'm a big sports guy, diehard Lions fan. I know, Dr. Carnell, you are too. Probably a lot of people in the room, maybe, hopefully we don't have any Packers fans, so it's okay, though, if you are. Well, my cousins live on Bessemer up in the UP, and they're right on the border of Wisconsin. In fact, she texted me. She's coming to Lansing. She wants to meet with me. But anyway, this was opening day against the Bears, and those are my two adult children. And I was like, sir, can you get a picture for me? Do you mind? And we did. And my son knows everybody. Like, he is big into the NFL. And that's Amon-Ra St. Brown's dad. He was the nicest guy. He took a picture of my family and really down to earth. And he's like, we're going to take down the Bears today. That was when they were doing better at the beginning of the year. But I want to mention, we can learn from sports too. And I think the Lions are at a point where it's not like they got to throw it all out. They just got to retool a little bit. I mean, there's still a good foundation and the basis there. That's what I look at for us. We have a foundation and a basis when we look at literacy and these other things. I think we need to just retool. These legislative priorities will help us to retool and move forward. So Dan Campbell, some of you might remember when he came in his speech that he gave when he was coming in, he said his entry plan kind of thing was, you know, look, we're going to punch you in the gut, and when you push us back down, we're going to bite off your kneecaps. I don't know if you remember when he came in and did that. So do you remember that? Yeah. So when I go around, I'm telling people I have an entry plan and I'm going to work hard, but I'm not going to do that. I just want to make that very clear on the record in this committee. But we are going to support students and work hard. And even though Lions didn't do well, we have reason for optimism. We know the Red Wings are doing well here, right? Those Pistons are actually #1 in the Eastern Conference. And I know everyone's been dealing with like all the weather and all that. In fact, the superintendents, when I was at the Mesa conference and I gave a keynote presentation, and I remember calling snow days. It's intensive when you're doing it. And they were, you know, all tired. And it's like, I stood up and I said, hey guys, although I have all these responsibilities to the state, although I have all these things I'm approving, my name's on everything, I don't have to call snow days anymore. But then what they did is every time they saw me in the corner of the elevator, they're like, well, you have the authority to give me 3 days. I want those extra 3 days. I want an extra 3 days. So don't worry, we'll support them. We understand the weather's been kind of crazy. And, you know, I'm a half glass full kind of guy. And guess what? Spring training's not too far away. So we can look at the optimistic pattern to make a difference for our kids. So that's our presentation for this morning, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you both for that. A few things, just to go through your legislative priorities. The number one, I don't disagree on the letters. I think if we're going to get serious about literacy, I think we have to do a little more than what we've done. To that point also, the question about the literacy materials, we've had, spent a lot of money and came up with a list, and there's some arguing about what's on the list, what's off the list. So a suggestion is you just use what Mississippi uses, cut through and what I've seen so far are some of there's similar items to both, what some of the items that Michigan has established and some of the things that there's some carryover on the two, but some differences. But I don't know if that would just create additional harm if we tried to redo that again or just put fidelity into what we're doing. But part of that saying if it's no longer a suggestion outside of those 6 or 7, if you're not using one of those, you're not going to get paid. I don't think that we can afford to have all these kind of things that are going on still. The other, the equitable funding, National Heritage Academy has a plan out that boosts weighted formulas. I don't know if that's something, actually, as it pointed out, Senator Camilleri had his opening hearing last week, and it was pointed out by one of the Republican members that we're well on our way already of doing the weighted system. We're just haven't done the 2X or the quite where they are, but we did increase at-risk by 25%. Sure. And one of the suggestions, by the way, to get there quicker was do what we did with the foundation allowance and just do 2X till you get there. That might be a way to get to that weighted formula. Also, number 6 or number 5, balanced statewide assessment. I assume that this is a replacement of MSTEP that you're suggesting, and if so, is this an MDE developed thing or something off the shelf?
Thank you for that question, Chair Kelly, if you don't mind. There's already a balanced assessment program that we have, so it would not be MDE creating it. We know that in certain districts, there's about 5 or 6 districts that are using smarter balance assessment, benchmark assessment, and they are seeing gains or improvement in student achievement. So we'd like to pilot, and balanced assessment is the same group that makes MSTEP. So we'd like to try it on other districts to see whether or not they would also see improvement in student achievement.
All right. As I mentioned, the National Heritage Academy, there's lots of things that, to me, are running in parallel lines and not necessarily competitive or competing against one another, but there's weighted formula. There's Future Learning Council looking at competency-based education. There's other groups that are looking at, you mentioned, trying to do something with modernized penalties for credentialing. Is that more of a pupil accounting thing where you've got a different accountant for different regions who may have different answers? Or, I mean, is that an internal problem or something else?
It is, no, it's not internal to MDE because MDE is following the law. It's more external for districts who get penalized in two ways. One, they have, because they put in the Registry of Education Personnel called the REP report every twice a year, December and I believe it's June. Sometimes we don't find out, based on the law, that a person is not properly placed. And so, or their credentials is not right, or the sub-permit hasn't been entered. Sometimes it's a clerical error, but we want to be able to work with the district sooner and find out that information. Districts are sometimes get penalized for two things: the number of students that are not in a classroom with a properly placed credentialed individual, and the fact that the district has a individual that's not credentialed. So we want to streamline that, make it less burdensome for districts, and make sure that students can have a properly placed, talented individual in the classroom.
All right. And then the expand MDE authority to act on educator credentials. What's meant by that?
There are some infractions that have occurred or that are part of the system now. Let's take, for example, technology-related predator behavior that's not in the law books, and we can't act upon them. So we'd like to have the authority to have some infractions added to the statute so that we can act on them on credentials quicker.
All right. And then the improved state tenure commission, is that different than number 10, Glenn, of the MIPSers issue?
Yes,
That's
that would be
independent of
different,
that?
separate, yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me how you distinguish those?
So the number 10 is basically the ability of, so someone from a local district that was in the current, or we call officer retirement services, retirement system, and they're on a plan that they could go into the department and they could continue to work and continue to earn credit for their retirement. The reason why they're not a lot of times willing to go for a job at the department is because they don't want to risk those 20 years that they've had. Now, what I would say is it's probably not a long-term situation, and I'm studying it now with the Officer Retirement Services because the pension laws for educators changed in 12-13. So that it'll rotate out after that. So it only right now impacts educators that got hired prior to 2012. So we got to look through some of the nuances, but so it's just that would be separate from what you were saying with the tenure commission, correct? Yeah, separate. So when you're dealing with the tenure commission on teacher licensing, it'd be separate things.
All right. Then also just wanted to mention another thing, an initiative that's kind of that former Governor Snyder's gotten himself involved with Carnegie Foundation, again, about seat time and hours, days.
Sure.
That kind of thing, I think certainly is, even the Carnegie people have said it's an antiquated system and need to be removed from that. Again, going back to more of a competency base than seat time.
Chair, if I can mention, I
Yeah.
met with Dr. Richards and Tris Timmis, who's on the Future Learning Council.
Yes.
And Dr. Carnell and I went and we presented before 300 educators over in Grand Ledge.
They've got a big and growing group.
They do. And in fact, prior to me starting, that was one of the meetings, but with the two of them and with former Governor Snyder, we had a meeting to talk about those things.
All right.
So.
Good. And then the Michigan Blue Ribbon Schools, I just wanted to point, when was that, I can tell you as a former aide education policy advisor for Governor Engler, we came up with, and I designed the first one myself, was the Governor's Blue Ribbon Awards that we, probably did from like maybe 2000 to 2002, and then what happened, but was the Blue Ribbon School something that MDE was doing, or?
It was the U.S. Department of Education.
Oh, that.
And they
Oh, okay.
eliminated it.
Oh, all
Yeah,
right.
so like, in September, you had schools that thought they were receiving it, it was gone, so it's been pushed back down to the states. So if a state doesn't do it, then there's not a recognition program, but we want to do it, is what I'm saying. Yeah, so that's great that you were doing with the governor, too, with your time.
And just to go back a little, I mean, at the same time, also did, some of the most, the first early literacy stuff with our Ready Kit, that, a Ready Kit, Sue might remember those, Sue, that was, that these were distributed in hospitals to every newborn child with appropriate reading materials. There was a CD in it at the time, and different things. And so that's something. And then that was carried on after corporate-wise, I think, was subsidized for a while through a bit of the Grand Home years, and then kind of fell apart after that. But
And I should have mentioned at the start, too, I want to congratulate Dr. Carnell. She's retiring. She's done great work. We've been going around, and I was reading all the things that she's been doing. Like, she has done so much, so I know that you've had a relationship in the past.
I think Sue and I have been around.
So she's done great work. She's helping me, and I thanked her for not leaving right away as I'm learning, over at the department. I'm like, I was trying to negotiate to get her to stay longer, but she's leaving effective the end of July, so I want to thank her for her outstanding work. And we've recognized her as we've been going around the state, so.
Good.
Yeah.
And deservedly so.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
Thank you. Representative Glanville.
Thank you, Chair, and I hope it's okay if I ask a couple of questions here. Great. So let me just start off by saying, and I guess I'll put this on the record, I am a Cubs fan.
Oh, okay.
So I just want to add, next year is here, to your quotes. Because as a Cubs fan, if you know, you know, right? So, and I say that, as you're here, next year is here. So it's a new start. It's a new, it's exciting work to be done. And I'm hopeful that we will have a championship school team moving us forward. A couple of things I wanted to bring to your attention under goal number 2, and you are likely aware of this, but that has to do with the early childhood, early learning, and early literacy work. So there is a significant issue with the scholarship application program for our very littles, and I believe it's been moved over to MyLeap.
Yeah.
But like I said, just that system absolutely has to be updated, and so that providers, families, everybody is aware of what the resources are, so those programs can be funded, and folks can get their kids into good, standing childcare and early learning opportunities. So just want to kind of plug that, especially as you said you were having a meeting coming
thank
up
you.
with MyLeap.
Thank you.
And then secondly, in goal number 4, again, something I just want to flag for you, I was a part of a dual enrollment task force in 2024, and we created a comprehensive list of recommendations for improving how we implement dual enrollment and other programs, honors programs that are available, IB and AP and things like that. And so those recs are kind of sitting waiting, and those of us who were on the committee and came up with this, it's unclear to us why those have not moved forward. So I would love to dig into that and just say, the work has been done, it's ready to go, and if we can get some support in that.
Rep. Through the chair. Would you mind sending those to me?
Yep, for sure.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, I could not be more excited to hear about tech and innovation, given my background. And I just want to flag also that I am part of a national work group that is convening in the end of February specifically around AI in education. So I can, again, we can connect after, and happy to bring forward support from those recommendations as well.
Representative Steckloff.
How are you? Thanks for being with us today. Thank you, Chair. Representative Glanville kind of asked both my questions, but I wanted to go back to dual enrollment. I'm going to sound like a broken record. As you know, Dearborn Public Schools, if they're not at the top, they're near the top for dual enrollment programs, consistently leading the state with that. But as you know, that funding comes out of our foundation allowance. So trying to work around how we can get more students involved in dual enrollment, because depending on the school you go to, I know in one of my districts, we have 2 high schools. One high school goes a lot deeper into AP classes, while the other one focuses more on dual enrollment. So I want to have a conversation on how we might be able to move those dollars into its own program, so schools don't feel, handcuffed to keep those funds within that student and not go into dual enrollment. And it also has to do with CTE programs as well. Big proponent of those. So something I just wanted to bring up. And then I also want to move back to the AI question. I have a feeling this might be one of the biggest topics we're going to be tackling in the next few years. And while AI can be used in very innovative ways for education, I'm sure we are looking at it, but are there any plans to discuss how AI can also be disruptive to some of our students? I know that some of the letters I get, are either clearly AI written or they're not AI written, and we have another problem when it comes to English composition. So I just wanted to kind of bring up those two things and kind of find out where the department is moving into some of those AI questions. Thank you,
Well,
Chair.
I'll just say that's why we're asking for some of that funding to look at those very things, to see, we know, it's not going anywhere. It's here. So we need to embrace, but be cautious with how we do it. I think is exactly what we want to do at the department.
The goal is to use AI effectively. So some of the precautions about using or the use of AI will be on the table or will be part of our guidance. We don't want AI to generate or help not generate thinking or critical thinking with our students. So we want to provide guidance that ensure that students still can be critical thinkers.
Representative Beeson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for being here. I'm excited for this letters training, and I have 4 sisters. 2 of them are teachers, early and advanced. But that letters training is very. I'm looking at the pros and cons, and I'm dyslexic on top of it, so I appreciate for some of this other stuff. But it's very costly, and it's 160 plus hours, and how are we going to put that into a schedule for a teacher? Are we going to run a summer program to try to teach these people up to speed? Because giving up 160 hours from one of my sisters is probably not going to happen.
Well, I'll just add that we recognize that, which is why we're asking for funding and support to help. And we have models of districts that have come forward and showed how they've done it effectively. I've also talked to union leadership at the state level and how they've supported it as well. So we understand that we need to provide the time. And as a local soup, you get into that. Are you talking about substitutes, which you always got to be careful, because then you don't have the same high quality instruction when you're pulling too many. But where is the time to do it? So districts have done it a couple different ways, and we have a few models out there. But I agree with you. It's something we have to be considerate of with the demands on teachers, but we definitely need to compensate them for that training because it is intensive.
Okay, thank you. And then how are we going to get young people their senior year? And we've continued to get a worse problem. I've had 3 kids go through high school, and even with the dual enrollment, and they all had dual enrollment. We have a senior problem. They're checked out way too early. We've got to get them back in. I don't care if they're here, in the shops. We've got to, your structure for your senior needs to be on-job training, not in the school. I mean, at that point in time, some of them aren't going to college, right? And at that point in time, they've already should have been out in the banks, in the credit unions, in the shops. Because a lot of places, especially in our area, don't even have exams their senior year after the second one. So they're just doing nothing I mean, they really are. They're basically just pedaling a bike to get somewhere. And let's hear something here.
So we are a strong advocate of flexibility for at least the 11th and 12th grade. But that's also one of the reasons why we have into our legislative proposal expanding CTE and also bringing CTE down to the middle school, so a student doesn't have to wait until they're in the high school to discover what they want to do. And so we feel that once you have a career path that you are thinking about, that you have the opportunity to get into a CTE program to explore those career paths, that by the 11th and 12th grade, it can get you out in the field earlier and you can get away from the seat time requirement.
Yeah, that's the third thing on my list in my office why I'm here, and it's junior high CTE. I mean, all the people that have opportunities are the young people that get out there and just get moving. So thank you.
Thank you.
Couple things, some topical things that have come up over the last few days. Wanted to see how you would address these. Certainly, these are important to my caucus. Is these school closures on Thursday and Friday, primarily in southeast Michigan, over ICE demonstrations where school superintendents even encourage their students to go out of class. Rochester being one, Detroit was another. I think that these people ought to have their that day's pay docked. I don't think they should be getting school aid for the days that they're not there to protestations.
Yeah, so one thing I just say I've had experience with in Dearborn Public Schools is sometimes, and I'm not aware of those specifics, but we can.
It was all over the news.
Is it? Okay, so we can look into some of that. But one of the things that we would always do as a staff is, if the students did it, they have their First Amendment rights and they're doing what they do. We don't promote it. We don't get involved. We just make sure the students are safe. So we would kind of guide that. And we've had different protests in Dearborn, third largest district in the state. We've had those things. So we can look into those situations and make sure that, districts are following proper protocol as far as their funding and other things when they're, calling snow days or doing whatever they need to do. But we would, I think, have to look into that situation for the specificity, because it could be, like I said, in Dearborn where, the students are initiating it. And there were different reasons they protested.
These weren't student initiated.
Okay, so.
By all accounts that I've read, it's the principals, superintendents.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Also, we talk about the professional development. And I agree with you that in fact, I think all professional development, certainly for K-5, should be suspended except for letters until everybody's been trained to letters. I don't think there's anything else that they should be paying for. And to that point, there's also, saw here recently where MDE is advertising professional development for LGBT training in schools. And I wanted to, if you think that that's an appropriate use and a priority of time.
So what I would just say is, I want to focus on literacy in these other areas that we're here to focus on.
So do I.
What I would say to that is, that's why we have local control state districts. And as a local, I'm using my Dearborn experience, and I think I talked to you about this, Chair Kelly, is that we solved it by, going through those local decisions and parent opt-outs. So we know that, the curriculum needed to be upgraded because it hadn't been touched in a long time. But the reason why it works, because parents and local boards have the decision. So for example.
I think that you're confusing the new health standards with professional development to help assist in the development of LGBT clubs and such in schools.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it.
Well, you have it on your website. You have LGBT initiatives on your website.
So I've heard Dr. Maleyko say and others that we are responsible for all children, regardless of how they feel about themselves, their identity. And so if there's going to be training, it should be training that helps all students. And we feel that a variety of training, in the end, will help all students.
State initiated. State initiated.
Their guidelines.
These aren't locals that are asking for this, to my knowledge.
Right, but they have the opportunity to use it and their guidelines and their training for individuals or educators if they need it. And they have, they will help students feel comfortable and succeed in school.
All right. Representative Glanville.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to clarify, when we're talking about state-initiated PD opportunities, I assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking about professional development that follows the state-approved standards for education in our schools. And while, and so just to be clear on that, it's not as if you are offering some kind of professional development that goes outside the scope of what the state has approved for our classrooms. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Whether or not it's approved or not, I don't know. I'm talking about priorities. We've got literacy problems. We've got achievement issues. And it's, to me, it's a wasted priority and time of staff to be centering your attention on some of these other things. That's all. So I'm telling you that within my caucus, this is a huge issue, as well as these things where schools are letting themselves out, calling no school for the day over protestations or whatever. Those are things that I think are serious issues that need to be addressed and not just simply glossed over by the Michigan Department of Ed. Because I can tell you that we're going to be serious about trying to do some sort of legislation to rein some of that in. So
And I'll just say, I'm with you on, like, literacy is our priority. We
Yes.
want to keep focusing on there. And I'll just say, as a local superintendent and now state superintendent, and to Dr. Carnell said, we all have our individual viewpoints and things like that. But I'm the state superintendent. I have an obligation to all students in Michigan from everywhere, from the UP, from the Metro Detroit area, from the western side of the state, and that's what we're doing. But remember, there is local control on all those decisions, and parents always have an individual opt-out of everything. That's how it's built. So that's been the solution in my experience, working in Dearborn, and why it didn't become an issue, because the parents made the decisions and the local boards did.
all right, thank you. Representative Beeson moves to excuse absent members. There being no objections, the motion prevails by unanimous consent. There being no further business, the meeting is adjourned.